Was he asleep? No. What time was it now? He had to send out today's update, but couldn't find his mouse. But suddenly the man felt grab something. It was soft, but there were no left and right keys. At this moment he heard a voice, "Master, don't fiddle with it." The man opened his eyes. He saw that the thing which he had grabbed was not the mouse. He saw a girl in front of him. The man thought that he was having a dream and had a perverted smile on his face. He then thought, why not feel the dream more? The girl moaned and asked to stop. But then thought, if she were to run away now, she would probably make the master angry and would end up getting beaten by him. The man suddenly stopped and looked towards his hands in astonishment. He thought something was fishy. Even if the dream was so vivid, there must be something wrong here. He looked at the kneeling girl and asked in a questioning tone, "Are you Kang Yu Ling?" All of a sudden he felt a piercing pain in his head. He then started groaning in pain. The girl, seeing this, got flustered and asked in a worried voice, "What happened?" She got scared and thought that if the master died here, everyone would suspect her. At that time, everyone in the sect would beat her to death. At this moment a hand stretched out and touched the girl's cheeks. The man said, "Yu Ling, don't cry, I am fine." The girl, Yu Ling, suddenly started crying loudly. She thought the master had lost his mind, because how could the grumpy, cruel, and fierce master actually comfort her gently? The man seemed to realize that, and changed his expression to that of anger. He then asked her in a cold voice, "Why are you crying? Do you want me to shut you up permanently?" The girl got so scared that all the tears evaporated, and what was left was a happy smile. She then said, "That's great, master. You are now fine." The man face-palmed himself and thought he had set her to be a cute character, but how come her personality was very different? He then started to think, I have crossed into the story of Long Ocean, a novel written by myself. I have reincarnated into the body of Shenshi, who is a golden stage cultivator. He is a ruthless character who does whatever it takes to become stronger. From the beginning of the story, he deceived and intimidated the protagonist. He even tried to kill the protagonist. Later, when the protagonist achieved mastery in swordsmanship, the first thing he did was to kill Shenshi. This character Shenshi was completely useless. His life was as worthless as his death. He then became frustrated by the fact that he had become the first cannon fodder boss who was sacrificed to the heaven by the protagonist. He then thought, maybe it was because he always liked to name the villain on his own name. If he knew that earlier, then he would have given the protagonist his own name. At this moment he remembered something. If I have transmigrated into my own novel, then shouldn't I have received the system? According to all the reincarnation cliches, he must have high own cheat. He then shouts, "Come out supervillain system." But nothing happened. He then thought maybe it was some other name. He keeps calling out, Krypton gold system, lottery system, hate system, love system. But nothing seemed to happen. He then shouted in annoyance, "Why are you doing this to me? At least give me something." He then realized that maybe he would die sooner than he thought. At this moment the cheerful disciple Yu Ling, seeing her master in depression, came to console him. Shenshi, seeing this cheerful girl by his side, accepted the reality and thought, how could I bully this cute little child? Let me slowly change my image. Also, I have to make a good relationship with my other apprentices, as they all sided with the protagonist in the story. At this moment they heard a pleasant voice from outside. Master Disciple Meng has something to report. A beautiful girl with orange hair appeared outside the master's quarter. She had worry written all over her face. She was thinking, did something happen to junior sister? She went to deliver the spirit tea to master. Even though she is clumsy, had she displeased the master? The man, hearing the voice, instantly recognized it. He thought, his second disciple, according to the setting, was gentle, kind-hearted, and sentimental, but her qualifications were mediocre. She didn't have much talent in cultivation. In the original plot, she was beaten to death by this body for helping the protagonist. It also became a catalyst for the protagonist's revenge, of course. He wouldn't do the same thing now, because he was not the real Shenchi, instead a perverted writer from Earth. He slowly opened the door. He was excited to see the character he made in real life, but when he saw the way she appeared, he was too embarrassed. He thought he would see her from close up, but reality was often disappointing. He ordered her to get up. The girl then slowly said, "Master, Xingzhang had sent an invitation to you." Shenchi, instead of focusing on her words, looked at her body and immediately had a nosebleed. Disciple Ming, on the other hand, seeing her junior sister being fine, sighed in relief. The man thought Xingzhang was from the administrative department, so he should take a look at the invitation. He then asked the orange-haired girl to give him the invitation. The girl, hearing that, trembled. She said with a shaking voice, "Reporting to Master, the invitation still has not been sent." She then thought it was all over now. As she was too worried about her junior sister, she just lied to the Master. For a disciple like her, who had extremely low talent, the Master would definitely kill her if he got angry. Shenchi, seeing this, felt awkward. It was because he knew that she had made up the invitation thing to protect her junior sister. He sighed and thought how come his apprentices were so stupid. He once again started to act coldly, as he knew that if he were to act humble, it would do more bad than good. He spoke indifferently, "This time I will spare you, so take Yu Ling back before I change my mind." Hearing those words, the girl was astonished, but then smiled and kowtowed once again. Shenchi came near her and told her not to kneel and worship him in the future. She could just greet him normally. Hearing this, disciple Ming got confused and asked, what did he mean by that? Shenchi then spoke, "It's nothing. I just wanted to see your full body. I mean to say, seeing you stand straight makes you feel more obedient." As the disciples were leaving, the man thought it was so difficult to play this character, as Shenchi's character was so villainous. It would take a lot of work to get these little apprentices to trust him. It's now time for him to take the responsibility of the Master and guide them in their cultivation. He had realized that it was better to accept the reality of transmigration and move on. Disciple Ming slowly turned around and glanced towards Shenchi. When she saw his face, she blushed and felt hot all over her body. Seeing this, the little sister Yu Ling said, "Senior sister, why are you blushing? Are you thinking that the Master is very good-looking?" The orange-haired girl got embarrassed and said hurriedly, "What nonsense are you talking about? He's our Master. How can I think of those things?" Erbai Peak was Shenchi's exclusive cave among the 12 mountain peaks that covered the area. The concentration of spiritual power was second only to the main, Duntian Peak. At the peak, there were 2 snow-white fields. One was a herb garden, and the other was a white jade hotbed. The herb garden had tea-gathering ability and the necessary materials for cultivation, while the white jade hotbed was a treasured place for breakthroughs in cultivation. These 2 treasures were all privately held by Shenchi, and together with his peak cultivation of golden core, even if the other peak masters were jealous, they didn't dare to make a move. The man kept moving towards the mountain peak. He then remembered, according to the novel's setting, there was a mutated edelweiss in his herb garden. It was also the protagonist's first power-up. No one had found it yet. He had to take it first to avoid other mishaps. He relaxed knowing that he was being worried over nothing, as this plot was written by him, so he naturally knew everything. But the moment he reached the mountain peak, he trembled seeing the scene in front of him. Some cranes were eating away all his herbs. He became so angry that he threatened to kill them. Seeing the human charge towards them in anger, the birds escaped. Shenchi was very angry, and he wasn't willing to let them escape. He casted a spell, and a sword formation was created in the sky, which not only stopped the beasts from escaping, but instantly killed them. Shenchi then looked towards his herbs and said, "My poor baby herbs got eaten by these stupid birds. Were my disciples really looking after the fields?" He then shouted at the top of his lungs, "Everyone come to the herb garden right now." Hearing his loud sound, the disciples started running towards the peak of the mountain. Shenchi sighed seeing his disciples' speed, as it was too poor. Their physical fitness was too pathetic. He had to do something about it. A few moments later, the 3 disciples had finally reached the herb garden. They were panting like crazy. Seeing this, she was at a loss of words. He then looked at the new face and asked her to stand up. The girl obediently stood up. She thought, this disciple was Han Xianpi, and she was an upper middle talent, the one with the best aptitude among her peers. She had fire and wood spiritual roots, but the problem was with her physique. It was worse than ordinary people. Originally, she was used as a tool to do all the household chores by Shenshi, but she never complained about it and completed all her duties in an orderly manner. The man once again got a nosebleed seeing her figure. He then became serious and pointed towards the dead birds and spoke. Those idiots came in to ruin my valuable medicine garden. Who was the in charge of this place? All the girls looked towards each other. Seeing this, she thought, although the master was a cruel and ruthless person, but these disciples had a good relationship with each other and always protected each other. At this moment, the man realized something and thought, so it was actually his eldest disciple, Dong Yueli. He then continued thinking, his eldest disciple Dong Yueli was responsible for guarding the medicine garden, but after she was punished and injured by Shenshi, she couldn't come and take care of the field. The man face-bombed and thought he could only blame himself for it. The other disciples took it another way and thought the master to be very angry. They kowtowed and begged him to calm down and forgive their senior sister. The orange-haired girl even said that it was eldest sister who told her to take care of the garden, so she should be the one to be punished. The man finally couldn't handle it and shouted, "Enough, you are so noisy." He then coldly said, "Are you now teaching me what to do?" The disciple trembled and said she would never ever imagine that. Shenshi then spoke, "Get lost, and don't test my patience." Again, the disciples rolled away while kowtowing. Herbai Peak was divided into 3 areas. The first area was where the entry-level disciples and servants lived. The second area was where the excellent disciples lived, and the third area was naturally Shenshi's residence. In the second area, there was also a spirit gathering array, and the spirit power was twice higher than outside. This helped the disciples become much stronger with less efforts. The man then thought, why did his disciples choose to stay in the first area instead of trying their best to reach the second area? Well, he knew the answer anyways. After a while, the man entered the first area. He had no idea how Dong Yueli's injury was. He had only briefly mentioned it in the book. He just hoped it was not too serious. Shenshi then opened the door. A girl got shocked from the sudden noise. She stuttered, seeing the person in front of her. Disciple Dong then hurriedly apologized and said she didn't know he was coming. She would change and come out. The man suddenly closed the door. His face was full of bliss, as if he had seen everything in life, as if he had understood the true meaning of life. But then he suddenly frowned. The scars on her body were shocking. Even though he had vaguely mentioned it in the novel, he still couldn't believe the injuries to be this fierce. He then thought Dong Yueli was Shenshi's first disciple, and the one who suffered the most abuse. She was in the 9th level of Qi refining realm, which was also the highest among the 4 disciples. Later in the story, when every one of his disciples betrayed him, she was the only one who chose to stay by his side. He then sighed and mumbled, "Don't worry, such a situation won't happen again." The girl, on the other hand, was thinking something else. First, she was embarrassed that her master had seen her naked. Then she was scared, thinking if she would be beaten once again. The girl then thought, it's been quite a while. Has master left? But wasn't it strange? Why did he leave like that? At this moment, the gate of the room opened once again. The girl got scared seeing the master come in front of her, seeing the master take something out of his robe. The girl got scared. At this moment, she said, "Open your mouth." The girl on the other side trembled and replied, "Master, no, I am your disciple." But she then thought, if she didn't do as he said, in her current condition she would definitely die this time if got beaten by him. The man hurriedly put something in her mouth. The girl was shocked seeing this. Shenshi then explained, This is a priceless 4th grade elixir. I only have 10 of them, so don't waste it, and hurriedly absorb its power. The girl, hearing that, was surprised and quickly went into a meditative position to absorb its power. The man looked at her and came out of the room. He was thinking that, after she absorbs the power of the elixir, she should be able to smoothly break through to the next foundation building realm. Time passed, and soon it was night. At this moment there was some movement in the bushes, and a little girl popped out from there. It was the youngest disciple, Kang Yuling. Following her was Mingtian. Mingtian said to her junior sister to be quiet. If Master were to catch them, then they would be finished. The junior disciple Yuling said, "Don't worry, sister. I know that the Master cultivates at night, so he will come here." Disciple Ming told her to be silent, as it was always good to be careful. This time they were lucky and could get the healing pill. They had to deliver it to their elder sister. She then gently knocked on the door and whispered, "Elder sister, open the door, we are here with the medicine." Seeing no response from the other side made Mingtian worried. Her junior sister said that maybe eldest sister fell asleep, but Mingtian said something else. What if, due to Master's punishment, she had already died? Hearing that, Yuling couldn't continue to wait and directly broke out the door with her little head. The door opened and Mingtian entered along with the groaning Yuling, who had a bump on her head. Seeing the aura flow from Dong Yuli's body, Mingtian then called her junior sister and said, "It looks like eldest sister had ascended to immortality." But Yuling had her eyes somewhere else as she drooled. At this moment someone pulled them back and asked them in a cold voice, "What are you both doing in the middle of the night?" The two of them got flustered and started making up stories. She instantly recognized the purpose of their visit after seeing the medicine bottle in their hand. He sighed and thought, even though his disciples didn't have a good cultivation, but they really had a good character. He then told them that their elder sister was now in the middle of a breakthrough, so they shouldn't disturb her and go back. After saying that, he left. The two girls bowed and were about to leave when the youngest asked Mingtian, "Second sister, did you notice that too? Master had become much kinder and warm. Was he still the master we knew?" Mingtian just looked at the receding back of the man. On the other side, she was thinking, at first I just wanted to change the direction of the plot, but now I really quite like these disciples. Looks like I have to be a good master from now on. The next morning, at the top of Erbai Peak, in a room she was cultivating, he sat in a meditative position and thought. According to the setting, this body's previous owner had a water and wood dual spiritual root, was skilled in illusion arts, trapping techniques and healing methods. His most powerful move was the spirit arts called overlapping mountains. According to the ranking of arts in this cultivation world, there were spirit arts, profound arts, and immortal arts. Spirit arts were at the bottom of the list. Even if one were to cultivate it to perfection, they still won't be too powerful. Shi opened his eyes and thought, I am now fully in the golden core stage, and only one step away from the nascent soul stage. Of course, there is also a possibility that I won't be able to advance further. After all, according to the story, in the Kingzhou region, one is already very powerful if they were at the nascent soul stage. At my current realm, I am just the right difficulty as the first boss for the protagonist. He then tried to use his power. He sent a strand of Kai towards the chair lying on the side of the room. The chair broke into pieces, and the strand of Chi returned back to its owner. Shi had made up his mind. Now that he had decided to become a good master, it was time for him to improve his cultivation too. Time passed and soon it was evening. The door opened and Shi came out with a dumbstruck look. He stood at the cliff and thought, was this because he had created the world? How did he so easily break through to the nascent soul stage? This world seemed to be pleasing him. It is as if he was this world, and this world was him. The world was responding to his needs. That meant in the future not only would there be no obstacles in raising his cultivation realm, but also the balance of rules would tilt towards him when fighting, and all the enemy's attacks would be weakened, while his would be strengthened. He smiled and then said in an excited voice, "Awesome, the heavens seem to be helping me. If this went on, then he could even reach the legendary God realm and become the strongest existence in this world." He then calmed himself and thought, for now it would be better to follow the plot and suppress his realm to the golden core stage. He smirked because he knew that even if the protagonist were to be equipped with various cheats, he still could always beat the protagonist. Thinking about this, he started laughing loudly. And thus another night went by with the loud laugh of a mad person. The next morning, Kang Yuling came out of her room and greeted her elder sisters. Seeing her like that, Ming Tian asked if she didn't sleep well last night. Yuling replied that last night she had heard the master's scary laugh coming from the mountaintop and was too scared to sleep. Ming Tian then instructed her to wash up quickly, as master had called for them, at the white jade hotbed at the top of the mountain. The three of them hurriedly ran towards the mountain. On the other side, Shenshi was feeling sleepy after sitting here for so long. Behind her stood the eldest disciple. She then whispered in his ear, "Master, my junior sisters have arrived." Shenshi then looked towards her and sighed in admiration. She had finally broken through to the foundation building realm last night, and even those pair of things had grown. He turned back to the three disciples who had now arrived on the mountain. He then said in a calm tone, "In the future, I want to see you here every morning. Get up early and cultivate here for an hour. Do you understand? Let's start now." The disciples humbly bowed to him. The white-haired girl then spoke, "Master, I think it is better if I just do the labor work. Cultivating with my sisters would only hinder their progress. I don't even have a cultivation method yet, so I hope you understand." The girl was sad and thought that she was just a good-for-nothing who couldn't even cultivate. Maybe it was better for her to live and die as a laborer. It was a pity she wouldn't be able to save her mother. Shenshi thought that earlier the previous owner of this body didn't teach her any cultivation methods because he feared her unknown background might complicate things, but he on the other hand had nothing to worry about. Shenshi then asked her, "Zioner, how old are you?" The girl then replied that she was 14 years old. The man then said, "The best period to start cultivation is between 9 to 12 years. At the age of 14, the meridians in the body were about to take shape, so even if she starts cultivating now." He didn't complete his sentence as he saw tears in the girl's eyes. He then patted her head and said, "It's okay, it is not too late. You have a fire and wood dual spiritual root, and since you haven't entered a sect before, I will teach you this sect's cultivation methods. As long as you work hard, it is not too late." Hearing those heartfelt words from her master, the girl couldn't stop her tears and let them flow. She remembered the time 4 years ago, on top of the immortal hall, when everyone ridiculed and showed contempt towards her. The one who took her hand and made her his disciple was this man standing in front of her, her master. She hugged him and cried. The man patted her head and told her to stop crying. Seeing this phenomenon, the other two disciples were shocked. They thought, was this really the master they knew? When did he become so gentle and caring? The eldest disciple, seeing this, had a smile on her face and said, "Master was a very gentle man before. Looks like he finally came back now." After a few days, the youngest disciple, Yu Ling, said that she was very tired. She had to get up early every morning, climb to the top of the mountain to practice, and then come down. Disciple Ming washed herself and said, "Master is doing all this for our own good. Little junior sister, don't complain." The white-haired girl then said that she was going down the mountain to wash the vegetables. At this moment, the youngest disciple, Yu Ling, grabbed the girl from behind and asked if master had been too strict with her recently. The girl got surprised by this sneak attack and told her to let go. She then spoke, not only did master spend his time and energy to teach her the cultivation, but he also allowed her to practice on his white jade hotbed, as she was a firewood double spiritual root. She continued, since master treated her this way, she should work hard and not disappoint him. After saying that, the girl left. The little girl, Yu Ling, asked, "Second sister, do you really think that the master was a kind and gentle person in the past as mentioned by the eldest sister?" Mangtian then patted her junior sister's head and said, I don't know, but we were originally rejected by all the sects. Third sister was rejected because of her status, and I because of my inferior spiritual roots. And you were rejected for being dumb. But Master was willing to accept us as disciples. He must be a gentle and good teacher. As the third disciple reached the bottom of the mountain, she spotted some people. She then asked them who they were, and did they have the token? The green-haired man smiled and said, Sister Zion Feng, you forgot me so soon. The white-haired girl then replied, Oh, it turned out to be Senior Brother Zhao. Why did Senior Brother come this time? I remember that you came not long ago to pick up the Edelweiss. The man then spoke, Junior Sister, it seems you had misunderstood. I am not here to get Edelweiss. In fact, we recently lost 7 medicinal cranes, and my master sent us to look for them on various hilltops. As soon as the girl heard the term medicine crane, she got shocked. The man then continued that medicine crane is extremely valuable. Its blood and feathers are precious treasures. They are the most important things in our crane white peak. I don't know if Junior Sister Zion Feng has seen it. The girl's expression became awkward as she stuttered that she didn't see any. She remembered that a few days ago, a crane came out of nowhere and Master asked her to cook it. They had a feast with that crane. She then calmly thought to fool these people. She said, if you don't have a token, you should go back, as Master doesn't have a good temper. If you dared to go up, he would definitely punish us. The green-haired man then calmly said, Junior Sister, why are you so uncompromising? We are just going up the mountain to have a look. But the girl stood firm to her statement and replied that she couldn't let him pass without a token. The man's facial expression changed. He then tore out his fake mask and appeared in his real self. He said arrogantly, Han Zion, did you really think you were a junior sister just because I called you? You are nothing but a worthless, inferior girl who got lucky and got selected by a master. The man suddenly raised his hands and attacked her. The other disciples warned him not to be impulsive, as the peak master of this peak was the devil Shenji. The man didn't stop even after hearing that, as he knew that the peak master didn't care about his disciples and often beats them to death. This girl Han Zion didn't even have a cultivation method, so she was even worse than a disciple. Even if she were to be killed, Shenji wouldn't do anything. But what happened next shocked everyone, as the girl blocked the attack with her palm. The green-haired man turned, couldn't believe it. Han Zion said, Senior Brother Zhao, are you really going to fight at the Erbai Peak? The man was full of rage, not because of the girl's words, but because she blocked her attack. He was at the 3rd level of chi condensation, although he held back quite a bit, but it shouldn't have been blocked by her, who didn't have a cultivation. The man became jealous and dumbly shouted, Your master didn't teach you to cultivate, yet you have a cultivation foundation. You must have stolen it from your master. I will teach you a lesson in place of Shenji. The girl gritted her teeth and thought, even though I am a beginner and would die here, I won't let you go and humiliate master's prestige. At this moment a cold sound resounded. Is it up to you to teach my apprentice a lesson? Shenji appeared and gave the man a slap. He was sent flying towards the other people, making them fly as well. Shenji then patted her disciple's shoulder and said, You did well. The girl was happy hearing that. Next he turned towards the people with coldness. The disciples of other peak became scared and begged for forgiveness. He then coldly said, Since you are juniors, I won't make things difficult for you. Now go away, and if there is anything, tell your master to come. The disciples from other peak ran away scared. Shenji then asked her if she was injured. The girl was touched by this and replied that she was not injured. The man then asked, why did those guys come? The girl was shocked hearing that and asked, Master, you didn't even know what was going on, yet you still beat them up. After a while, on the top of Erbai Peak, Shenji was sitting and looking at the cranes who were eating herbs. He then said, This month I took care of things myself. These cranes just eat and drink. When are they going to reproduce and give him a nest full of cranes? Hearing that statement, the eldest disciple felt awkward. Apparently these cranes were the 7 medicinal cranes, which the disciples of other peak came looking for. He had feasted on one crane who was single, and he left the other 6 cranes as they were couple, 3 males and 3 females, so they could give birth to more cranes. He then stood up, dusted off his hands. He turned around and asked his eldest disciple Dong Yuili, "Was your foundation building realm stabilized?" The girl then timidly replied that it had stabilized thanks to the medicinal pill he gave her. The man then said, now that the foundation building period was over, she could start learning spells, as she had a mutated ice root, and the attributes of the root were similar to that of water. He then took out a book and handed it to her. He explained that it contained a spirit-level water technique, so she should go and practice. If she didn't understand anything, she could ask him. The eldest disciple nodded her head and absent-mindedly said that she would practice hard so as not to let him down. But inside she was thinking something else. She had no idea that the day he showed her kindness by giving her a pill had caused a massive ripple in her heart. She thought, "Master, I can't take it anymore. Please punish me." This girl had turned into a masochist. That's all for this video. I hope you liked it. Which disciple did you like the most? The youngest one, the orange-haired second disciple, the white-haired third disciple, or the eldest disciple? Answer in the comments.